This is Matt Bradley-Tschirgi. I'm doing a little stream here tonight, real quick, about reactions to something released on Twitter from Squaresoft related to Final Fantasy VI Pixel Remaster. What we're doing here is they released footage of the opening credit sequence without the credits, but with the remastered version of the opening credits theme, which is Terra's theme, which later becomes an overworld theme, among other stuff used later in the game. So I will listen to it with you, and I'll give my live reaction to it and pause and kind of give my commentary on the music. Also, kind of different stuff with the graphics and the snow and particle effects they're doing. Hopefully, this is useful. I know it's not much, but Final Fantasy VI Pixel Remaster, as of this recording, is set to come out in 10 days. It's hard to believe, right? So a week and a half, less than 10 business days. So, I mean, I'm really excited about this. Final Fantasy VI was one of the most influential RPGs I played growing up, and I can't wait to play this remastered version. It's the one title I've been the most excited about in this Final Fantasy 1 through 6 Pixel Remaster news beat I've been following for the past, not quite a year, but I'd say about half a year or so. So let's get going and see how it goes with my commentary. Again, this is my opinion. This is all speculation. I have not played the actual game yet, and I'll be sure to do a little review, preview, stream thing when the game comes out. And I paid for this game out of my own pocket. But these are all preview footage posted on twitter.com/Final Fantasy. If you like what you see, be sure to give me a follow at twitch.tv/MATWBT and ring the bell so you can get notifications when I do updates and all that jazz. And if you want to do stuff in the chat room, that's great too. I'll keep my eye on that as best I can. Blah, 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 blah. I can't really speak today. So let's get going with the footage and see how it goes. So a few things here. This opening credit sequence, there is a bit of dialogue that precedes it, but you're setting up at least as the beginning of the game. That's my cat Dandelion in the background. Thank you, Dandelion. Yep, you're noisy. That's fine. So in this beginning of Final Fantasy VI, you have some dialogue preceding it, introducing the main character Terra. She is a woman. She is brainwashed a bit by the evil Empire. Shades of Star Wars there, of course, as in these kind of older Final Fantasy games. And she is super strong, mind controlled. She pilots a mech. With her are two characters, Biggs and Wedge, although depending on the translation, it can be Vix and Wedge due to a mistranslation, but these are a reference to two Star Wars minor kind of hero characters in the original trilogy from 77 to 1982, 83, excuse me. So with all that, you have the opening credits in the game are displayed over this snowy backdrop. At the time, it used like Mode 7 graphics. Now it's done somewhat different with the engine they use for the Final Fantasy Pixel remasters. But what I'd like to note here is how less pixelated this stuff look, how much larger the mech sprites are, and the nice kind of subtle smoke layer effects, and also how the snow is traveling on the screen to give more of a three-dimensional view, I think is really, really neat here. And let's just continue listening to this arrangement. What I like here about this arrangement, as opposed to what's in the SNES version, is the percussion is more forward. You hear the drums dum 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 da 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 dum da 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 dum da 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 dum dum dum. You do hear the horns, and they're a bit less. It's less muddy, I think, than the original SNES arrangement, which was limited to the Yamaha sound chip that did. It wasn't exactly MIDI, but it was more or less, kind of a wavetable sound thing that's sort of equivalent to what you'd hear like on a Sound Blaster 32 or some of the Gravis Ultrasound PC stuff. The sound chip on the SNES was pretty good, even if the processor wasn't as quick as the Sega Genesis, but that's a whole nother separate topic. Also, as I play more of this footage, take a look at how in the background you see more stuff come up as the mechs seem to approach closer to the village and so forth. You couldn't really make out these details on the original SNES version. So this is a track, Terra's theme, also the opening credits theme, also called like Overworld, I think, in some of the versions of these soundtracks, is often played in these Final Fantasy concerts that originally were Japan only, but later they've done them all across the world. I had the chance to go to one of the first ones in the United States in Atlanta, Georgia in 2006 with some friends of mine, and that was a really cool experience. I believe it was it called Dear Friends or something like that. But anyway, they played this track while projecting footage of the original SNES game on kind of a big screen, so you got some context of what games these music was from. And I think that's nothing but a great thing. And this arrangement sounds quite similar to those orchestral arrangements. Really more curious as to what other music in Final Fantasy VI Remastered will look like. But let's continue on with this footage here. So notice here, the mountains are kind of coming more into view as the mechs continue their voyage, let's say, towards the city of, I think it's pronounced just Narshe, Narshe, Narsha. I guess there's different ways you can pronounce it depending on where you're from. I like that it sounds, melancholy. It sounds militaristic. It sounds, basically at the beginning of the game, your main character is working on the bad guy side. And so you kind of convey that, but also just the winter, the tundra reminds me of like Russian literature of the early 20th, late 19th century. The kind of struggle, like even though these are mechs, these are basically bad guys in these big mechs, they have to travel miles and miles alone in the snow. It just really kind of conveys a mood, if nothing else. And also, frankly, Final Fantasy VI is a lot more serious than, say, Final Fantasy IV or Final Fantasy V. It's definitely the most serious as far as plot goes by far of the first six Final Fantasy games, which were on 8 and 16-bit systems and so forth. So here we see the mountains get even bigger, and you see little hints of lights of the town of Narshe in the background. It's a nice touch. It does look kind of grainy, blown up to full screen. Again, keep in mind I'm playing the streaming version uploaded to Twitter that has a lot of compression artifacts. I assume this will look better in the final game, or at least less blocky. I'm playing it at the best quality I can. So anyhow, let's keep on going here. That last bit of music I think is sort of interesting. It provides some mystery, some intrigue. Da 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 da. Again, I'm off key with that, but it's to my mind what it's expressing is things are not all as it seems. Although it might sound like these mechs are on a noble mission, perhaps it is not as noble as it seems, and you'll find out pretty quickly. Terra will go into the village, and you're kind of done going through a tutorial when you're on these mechs that can do these cool like rocket launching and poison gas kind of attacks. And she kind of questions what she's doing there and has kind of amnesia, which is a classic RPG trope. So there's a lot going on, I think, communicated through the music that you don't necessarily get through with the plot at this early point in the game. Because Final Fantasy VI has, I think by default, 12, maybe up to 14 if you get extra secret characters that can join your party, that all have their own storylines, that all have their own character arcs. This is, a real heavy meal of a game. This is much more of a time commitment than the other Final Fantasy games. And yet I think you have better dramatic payoffs. It has a good ending. It has some of the most memorable characters in the series. In fact, a character concept artist, Yoshitaka Amano, Terra is one of his favorite characters to draw. And I'm not quite sure why that is, but she is a character of a lot of complexity. That she starts bad and kind of starts as a heel, right, and turns into a good guy, is a neat character arc to go through. And at some point, she just like leaves the party altogether and becomes an energy being. Like it's kind of unpredictable, kind of a little bit like the Dark Phoenix saga and the X-Men comics. I can, I assume there is perhaps some influence from that. But it's just an interesting game with a lot going on. It is kind of a slow burn. The beginning of Final Fantasy VI is a bit slow, especially if you haven't played it before. But I think if you're willing to give it its time, kind of like with a good thick novel, it really pays off in the end as more dynamic things happen in the story. So this might not seem like much, but you do have those bright orange city lights in the background showing they're getting closer to the town of Narsh. That with all the fog, with all the snow coming in, you've been through a journey with these characters in the game. It will show credits on top of this, like battle director and art director, all these kind of titles. And for me as a kid playing this in the 90s when this game first came out, it really made me interested in game design as a profession, which I am fortunate enough to do full time as of the past few months. And I don't know. This game, I think, is kind of where it all began for me. I did play a lot of RPGs before this, but I think Final Fantasy VI and also Chrono Trigger on the SNES made kind of prove to me, wow, you can really have interesting stories, good characters, kind of games that had more you could chew on than something like Mario Brothers collecting coins and trying to get to the next castle. It had a bit more to it. And the music has faded out here, and that's it for this video. I really hope we get a lot some fun, video teasers and some more, maybe kind of like a final note. I think like a mission statement on what the Final Fantasy Pixel remasters are meant to do, and perhaps a teaser of console releases. I think would be really satisfying. Because from the announcement of these Pixel remasters, if you follow this YouTube channel here at youtube.com/matwbt, please subscribe to that channel if you're not subscribed already. And be sure to follow this channel here at twitch.tv/matwbt if you have not. It's just really one of those things where, Square Enix announced it. People were angry. It was only on mobile and Steam to begin with. And then they were expecting console stuff, announcements about it, and everything kept getting delayed. So to get some kind of a console tease would be nice as when Final Fantasy VI comes out as a pixel remaster on Steam and mobile platforms February 23rd, 2022. So I can't wait for that day to happen. It's not even 2 weeks away. I'm jumping out of my skin about it. And what do you think about it? Do you have high hopes for this? Have you had favorites in the Pixel Remastered series? That could be sort of interesting to talk about so far. And what are some favorite music tracks you're hoping for in the new Final Fantasy VI Pixel Remaster? Again, I am Matt Bradley-Tschirgi. Hope you like this look at the intro cinematic with the remastered music for Final Fantasy VI Pixel Remaster. Can't wait to see you next time, and hope have fun and stay safe out there. Bye.